Warned you again, warned you the risk that Bitcoin has topped, and I warned you about the top. Let me just bring it up here with these trend lines. Again, this is our log scaling the trend lines from the 2021 peaks, linear scaling with our 2007 peak, and then we have the trend line here from these highs, also again pointing up into this area. We're just slightly under 2021 trend line there at the October 6th high. This is the 50-week moving average. This is a simple moving average. You close below it like we did over here. We got that close right there below it, and then you opened and closed the following week below it, and it confirmed the bear market. Do that here, that's bearish. That validates that we are now in a bear market. You come down and you bounce off this level here, just above it, here, right at it, back over here, right at it, then that is the last hope for the bulls. If you bounce off that level and you can clear this trend line, clear the 2027 trend line, you buy more time. But I warned you about this divergence back up at the peak. Listen to what I'm about to say closely. The RSI has come now down here to the 50 level. Now listen carefully. If we close, we're right now at the moment, the week is not yet closed, but we're right now below 50. We're at 49.86. We're below the 50 level. If you see the RSI close this week or next week, and then that is followed by a close below the 50-week moving average, will trigger what I call a 50-50 sell signal. A 50-50 sell signal is when you drop below the 50-week moving average and when the RSI drops below the 50-week moving average. Now back over here, the RSI dropped below the 50 level first. We came down to the 50-week moving average and we closed below it. We got back above it and we moved back up to the 50 level on the RSI, and then we closed below it again, and then you got the confirmation the following week, the close and the confirmation below the 50-week moving average, and again, the pull up back up to the 50, that was the counter trend. Just like back over here, we pulled back up to the 50 period moving average, a 50-week moving average. You closed above it, and then it got rejection there. Same thing as with the 200 period, very close to 200 period in the daily time frame. And again, you pulled up to the 50. The pull-ups in a downtrend, the pull-ups to the 50 are where the counter trends end in a downtrend. Notice when the RSI dropped below 50, notice that when the RSI dropped below 50 and the Bitcoin price dropped below the 50-week moving average, a 50-50 sell signal that the downtrend happened and we dropped 78% and the bottom fell out of Bitcoin. Just like right now, back then, call the top. And again, these signals helped me call the day of the top. We had a bearish divergence back in November 2021, and they were mocking and laughing at anybody that would be so stupid as to think Bitcoin could drop, move into a bear market, but yet it did. And we were told Bitcoin's never going below 60,000, and it dropped quickly, 52%. It dropped down. It got a 50% haircut, and it dropped down to the 30,000 range very quickly, from 69,000 to the 30,000 level, 52% before it got a rebound. Then they said, oh, it's over, and it wasn't. And then the bottom fell out of Bitcoin. But if you wanted to know if Bitcoin was bullish or bearish, all you had to do was look at the RSI and the 50 period simple moving average. And here in the weekly time frame, is Bitcoin above or below it? The RSI above 50 or below 50. And again, sometimes you pull up and overthrow the 50 level or overthrow the 50 period, but those are counter trends. We quickly resumed the decline, dropping back below the 50 and dropping back below the 50 level on the RSI. It wasn't until we formed a bullish divergence down here that you bottomed out. It was later confirmed by getting back above the 50 period moving average. My signals all turned back to bullish right there, and I had bottoming signals at the bottom there. If you watch my videos, you've seen those bottoming signals on my indicators, but it was confirmed by getting back above the 50-week moving average, getting back above the 50 level on the RSI. Now these pullbacks, we've dropped below the 50 level, going back to the 50 period moving average. You've dropped below it here. You drop below it over here a couple of times. you drop below it over here with these corrections that have been pullbacks to the 50, but you bounced up to 50, and then you resumed the advance. You got back above the 50 level on the RSI, you bounced off the 50-week moving average. Do we do that again? Do we get a bounce off the 50, have the RSI maybe go negative, and then resume the advance and try to clear this resistance? Or do we get a 50-50 sell signal like we had back at the last top? We get the 50-50 sell signal, and it gets confirmed right here. And again, a close below the 50-week moving average, and then an open and close below it after that to validate it. That will confirm the bear market for Bitcoin and trigger the 50-50 sell signal. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? If you like this information, please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. I don't have sponsors. I turn all those offers down. Most YouTube channels, they take those offers. I choose not to. I don't want to sell you anything. You're not here for me to sell you something. You're here to look at my amazing indicators. We're here to talk about our favorite subject, Bitcoin. But I need your help. I need you to support the channel and let me know you want this information. Anything helps. If you could take a moment and step up to the plate and help out, let me know you want this information. Let me know you like this information by supporting the channel today. Follow the link below to take you to a secured site, and you can donate any amount you want. If you could take a moment to do that, I would really appreciate it. Watch the video all the way through. Bitcoin's doing major technical damage. Before I leave this chart, just want to say, watch the 50-week moving average. I told you we were going down. Back at the top, we're going to go down in all likelihood and test the 98,000 level right here. And again, move towards the low 100,000 level to test a 50-week moving average, to test Bitcoin's average price, to test the 10-month moving average. 50-week moving average right now is at $101,800. $101,802 to be exact. $101,800. You close below $101,800. Then get the confirmation below it like we did back in the last bear market, you'll confirm a bear market. Likely headed to the 101,800 area. Test this. Now, we've overthrown it before, and other times we've been above it. Other times we've overthrown it just a little bit. You want to be watching. Do we come down here? There's going to be buyers in here initially. In all likelihood, that could give us a higher low. Can give us a bounce. Over here, you came down to the 50-week. You tried to get a bounce here. You did it again. You tried to get a bounce. You tried to bounce with the bottoming tail. Then you tried to bounce here with the close below it. But eventually, it failed. See something similar to that. So again, the 50-50 sell signal, will it be triggered? Right now, the RSI is below 50. We're still above the 50 level. 101,800 is the level to be watching in the weekly time frame. Information you're not going to get anywhere else, telling you exactly what will confirm a bear market if we are now moving into one. I think the odds are starting to increase. That's going to be the case. It goes, oh, the rate cuts are now starting. That's so bullish. The rate cuts are bearish. 2020 and 2021 were an outlier. We got a bunch of stimulus officially propping things up, and it gave us all this inflation. Fed rate cuts are associated with bear markets. I've proven this over and over again. We get our first bear market with Bitcoin, with the S&P moving into a bear market. You're going to have a wrecking ball taken to Bitcoin, and it's going to drop 80 or 90%. And if it drops 80%, you're going back to 25,000. I say about 25,200 or so. That's what 80% drop from 126,000. That's where it takes us, is that 125,000 area. Okay, it's a Thursday session. I just made a video with no sound. I was just flipping through some of the charts as I was looking at them. I just filmed it as I was reviewing my charts. I thought it would be helpful for you. Again, I realize there's no sound in that video, but I do that from time to time just as I'm reviewing my charts. This is the stuff I look at every single day. I thought it would be helpful to you. People got upset. There's no sound. I put in the video, I wrote one of the charts I would be posting today. Here I am. This is what I'm watching. I've been watching this trend line. I've been talking about this trend line here. Talked about the 4-year cycle and people dismissing the 4-year cycle. There's a very good chance Bitcoin has topped, as I continue to say. I told you what needs to happen in order for Bitcoin to top. Bitcoin has to take out the 50-week moving average, close below it, and then it has to open and close below it after that and remain below the 50-week moving average. That will validate a bear market for Bitcoin. That has what has validated a bear market for Bitcoin in the past. I've talked about that 3 videos ago. What to look for. Also, Bitcoin's average price. You start losing Bitcoin's average price, closing below it, staying below it. Going to validate a bear market. Right now, Bitcoin is down 2.40%. Oh, gee, doing exactly what I told you it would do. Right back at the top. At the top, I told you we were hitting major resistance. With this trend line right here, we were hitting from the previous highs in July and August. We were hitting the trend line, long-term trend line from 2017 yet again, which marked the top here when I called the top, marked the top here when I called the top, and marked the top here when I called the top October 6th. The trend line has served us well, telling us where the Bitcoin tops are. But I was laughed at and mocked for daring to be so stupid as to think Bitcoin is going to go down. I told you, again, with this breakout, doing exactly what we did with the government shutdown in 2018. You rallied up just over 10.5%. You rallied to resistance, and now you've dropped. Ended up dropping nearly 17%. Back in the government shutdown, you dropped 20%. The government reopened, and then you ended up dropping 21.5%. By the way, I'm making a new prediction. You watched my video yesterday, my new prediction. Here we are, day 16 of the government shutdown. My new prediction is this is going to go on longer than everybody thinks. The vote on it yesterday went down in flames. This is the 9th time they voted on a clean resolution. Bitcoin and the stock market are going to crash before the midterm elections. It's already been decided. If we lose the 50-week, if we lose Bitcoin's average price, if we lose the 10-month moving average, it will confirm it. Bounce off those levels, that's bullish. You got to come back and clear the resistance. I think the government is being purposely shut down to try to push the economy into recession ahead of the midterm elections. I think that's the strategy. The Democrats have refused to go along with the clean resolution, a clean continuing resolution, as they have the last 13 times they went along with it. I mean, they talked about how reckless it was to shut down the government. Now they're doing it by not going along with the clean resolution. Why? I don't think it's about health care. You shut the government down long enough, it'll put the final nail in the coffin for the economy and validate the recession. We already had the recession signals flashing. So again, if we're going into recession, Bitcoin's going to top and begin to collapse. There's a very good chance the 4-year cycle is going to play out, giving us an October bottom. People, no, it's a 5-year cycle. It's a super year cycle, because people are in denial. And we've just turned off major resistors. Now, what would turn me very, very bullish is rallying back up and clearing the resistance, seeing all my signals flip back to bullish and clearing resistance. What would turn me extremely bearish is taking out the 50-week moving average, taking out Bitcoin's average price, taking out the 10-month moving average, and staying below those levels. That means it's over. Now, I told you back up here, we're going back to 100,000 for a test. Oh, what do? We hit 105,000 here. On some exchanges, we got as low as 102,000. With this flash crash move, it's more than 10% in one day. But back up here, before the crash happened, before the sell-off happened, I warned you, I had topping signals back on October 6th, the day of the top, October 7th, October 8th. We had a topping tail on the 5th and 6th. You could see it right here on this daily chart. Here's the topping tail on the 5th. Here's the topping tail on the 6th. About all this stuff. Warned you about the bearish diversions that formed at the peak on the 4-hour chart. Signals continue to nail it. My signals continue to be right, but they were laughing at me, mocking me. I mean, what a dope I was back up here for daring to think that Bitcoin was going to go back to the 200 period and back towards the low 100,000 area. Oh, gee, right again. We've got the risk of a triple top here from July, August, and October. That's taken us down. The October high has taken us down to the 200 period. We're likely headed to Bitcoin's average price. You bounce off that level, you rise back up, and you clear resistance. That's bullish. You come down and you break this level, and you close below it. You remain below it. Then Bitcoin is toast. Here, we drop below it. We try to get back above it, back over here after we had peaked, and you ended up losing it. Trying to bounce, You lost that level, you came down, you came back to it, the 200 period just above it, and Bitcoin's average price, you got rejection there, and the bottom fell out of Bitcoin in the bear market. Again, this is the daily chart. If we lose Bitcoin's average price, you come down to it, you try to bounce, which is likely going to happen if we test it, and that's near the horizontal support at 98,000 there, and the 100,000 area. You come down here, breaking the trend line we're breaking right now opens the door now to come down to test 98,000. We lose that 107,000 area here, which it looks like we're trying to do right now as I'm speaking. Again, you come down here, you try to bounce, and then you end up losing this area. You're going to confirm a bear market. You're going to decline throughout 2026. People do not want to hear that. Again, I'm a trader. I really don't care if Bitcoin goes up or down. I'm a trader. I trade it back and forth. I go long, I go short. I'm telling you what has to happen for the bears to remain in control and to move into a bear market. I'm telling you what has to happen to resume the advance. There's still hope of resuming the advance, but odds are starting to increase. We've topped. That's why I took the time to show you the 4-year cycle. If you did not watch my video on the 4-year cycle, not my last video, but the video before that, not the one without the sound, but the one before that, if you didn't watch that, you need to watch that. Help you understand that, again, Bitcoin is still in the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, at least so far. So there's really risk that we've topped here in October. I had some guy comment to me on social media, no. He won't have it. He doesn't want to hear it. Again, I'm a trader. I look at the bear side. I look at the bullish side. Try to be objective. I try to be unbiased. I go long. I go short. I'm just telling you the risk is that we've topped here. The bulls need a bounce off the 200 or off Bitcoin's average price. We are doing technical damage and we are breaking the trend line at the moment. Bitcoin being down over 2.5%. Bitcoin down 2.64% at the moment. Again, coming back to the support zone here. We have the 200 period moving average down here. We have 98,000 right here. Again, RSI is in negative territory, moving to a new low. Stochastic try to turn back up, rolling back over. We're getting the 10 period crossing the 20 period moving average. The red line is the 10 period. The 20 is the blue line. Again, the 10 is likely going to cross below the 50, headed towards it right now. And again, you're probably going to try to bounce, come down here and bounce somewhere in the low 100,000 area, testing 98,000, dropping below the 200 period moving average. You might try to bounce surrounding it, but you're probably going to end up dropping below it like we did back in April. And then try to bounce surrounding the 50-week moving average and Bitcoin's average price. And then the waiting game. Do those levels hold with the bounce, or do we break them and we end up confirming a bear market? Right now, the MACD is moving into negative territory. This is all bearish stuff. And again, they were laughing at me back up here at the top when I told you, again, surrounding the government shutdown or other catalysts, we're going down in all likelihood. I always present the bullish case. I always present the bearish case. I'm not interested in the bullish side. I'm not interested in the bearish side. I'm interested in the right side. And I'm telling you what has to happen in order to confirm a bear market. If we don't, that's bullish. You got a clear resistance. If we confirm a bear market, it's over. Bitcoin is toast. And it's going to collapse 80% or more. Markets on Bitcoin have been 93%, 86%, 84%, and 78%. Bitcoin, if it confirms a bear market, it's likely to collapse by 80%. If Bitcoin drops by 80%, it drops $100,800. So nearly $101,000. It drops down to $25,200 if we get a confirmed bear market. We can resume the advance, then again, still got a shot at going to the Fibonacci extensions, but right now, turning up major resistance. It's all about support and resistance. People in the crypto community are perma-bulls. Most of them are perma-bulls, so they never see the sell-offs coming. You have the perma-bears. You don't want to be in either one of these groups. You want to be objective. You want to look at both sides of the coin to try to determine what's going on. And I'm telling you, I have certain signals like the 50-week moving average, the 10-month moving average, and Bitcoin's average price that will confirm to me We are in fact moving into a bear market or not, or just pulling back and going to go higher. Breaking the trend line here, coming down to the 200 period, which I warned you. We try to bounce around that. You might try to back test the trend line. We'll be watching to see, do we close weak? Do we close stronger? Do we rebound back up? We'll be watching the trend line. Do we close below it? You need to close below it to break it. Over here, we dropped below it than when we got back above it with the liquidation move. Largest crypto liquidation in history. Diversions to begin to play out. Again, we will probably end up setting up multiple divergences before we bottom out, to bottom around the low 100,000 area. I said eventually that could break. We're getting the 50 crossing below the 200. We're getting the 10 dropping below the 20 in the daily. Sometimes the crossovers lead to short-term bottoms or rebound moves back up. We've got a lot of chop and slop going sideways. Other times you get the crossovers and you get a significant decline that follows. Which will this be? Well, we might try to bounce up that 200. So again, we don't have to take out this low to have a divergence because the RSI does not look at the wick low. It looks at the closing lows back over here, and you got a divergence going on. So again, keep that in mind. The divergences have marked the turns, the tops and bottoms. I've called every single top and bottom based on these divergences in the 4-hour time frame. The 4-hour time frame is a Bitcoin trader's best friend. Now, same thing here. I talked about this MACD forming a divergence. We were told Monday, the people that never saw the sell-off coming, the people that told us we had a breakout back at the October 6th high there, that we were breaking out October 5th and 6th, people that were oblivious to what's going on, they're telling us, it's over. The sell-off's over. And I'm telling you, they're going down lower, a little bit lower. Test 98,000 to test the 50-week moving average to test 100,000 area, and you try to bottom there, you break it, and you're going to get something much, much uglier. You break that 98,000 level of support. You break Bitcoin's average price. You break the 50-week moving average. So we'll be watching. Do we get a divergence here? Can we bounce? You don't have to bounce, but again, you very well could try to bounce above this low here and at that 200 period, which we're testing right now. We'll be watching to see what happens. Again, it might be multiple points of divergence before we get any kind of real meaningful bounce, and you might have to go to much lower levels. Here we are again at this 107, now 108,000 area, testing the support zone, and it's possible we might try to bounce there for the short term. If we get a big rebound by the end of the session, as I said, you get a wick in the daily time frame. You don't close below the trend line by the close, then you got a shot of a bigger Fibonacci retracement. The 4-hour chart here with the Fibonacci's, and again, you can clearly see we're going back and testing that low. At the moment here in the 4-hour bar, we're trying to get a bottoming tail. So again, if you can get a bottoming tail, then again, but you end up closing below the trend line I'm talking about from April and May, then again, I try to back test. If you can get a wick in the daily time frame and a rebound and not close below the trend line, then you still have got a shot at going up into the golden pocket here. The golden pocket between the 61.8 fib and the 78.6 Fibonacci, 118,000 to 121,000. It's becoming less likely with breaking the trend line now, and that we're getting rejection here off of the 50% retracement of this entire decline. You close below that trend line, this becomes less likely, a larger Fibonacci retracement. You close below it, you could rebound and back test the trend line. If we close below the trend line, I'll be watching these trend lines right here from these previous highs. The one back from the peak there at 126,000, connected to the high here, coming down, a rally back towards that trend line might give you a back test of the trend line should we close below the trend line that I'm showing you in the daily time frame that we're now breaking from the April and the May low. Do that. Now, I gave you warning signs at the top. We had warning signs with the topping tail. We were hitting major resistance, and we had all these warning signs flashing that we were going to sell off. Get the liquidation move. I warned you before it happened. Turning off resistance, getting all these warning signs. Tried to get a rebound right here. Signal flipped right back to bearish here. Major topping signal remains intact. No major bottoming signal. You're likely going to get one surrounding the 200 period, either under the 200 period or at the 200 period. And you try to form a divergence on the 4-hour chart and get some kind of bounce. And if you get the bounce and you close below the trend line I'm talking about from the April and May low that I keep showing you, and you may try to back test it, that may be your bounce. It's doing exactly what it did during the last government shutdown. It rallied up from the breakout point here. This is the day of the government shutdown. It rallied up over 10.5%. It's like we did in 2018. Now it's down. It dropped almost 17%, 16.79% so far. It's likely going to take out this wick low in the coming days ahead. But as I've said, listen carefully. We're becoming oversold in that 4-hour time frame, as I showed you, and you might complete that divergence, and we may attempt to rebound back up, either just above this wick or just below it. But as you can see, the signals continue to nail it. Calling the tops over and over, September peak there, and these bottoms. Last week we had that liquidation move. We got the bottoming tail. We ended up closing down 6.79%, but we got a reversal signal like we got back over here. And like we got back over here in December with the peaks in December and January, over here with July and August. Slammed into the major resistance, and again, we've dropped 16.79% so far. I'm using the Bitcoin historical data, so your exchange may be a little bit different from this. You're looking at one of the Bitcoin charts from the exchanges. Again, the signals have done a very good job in marking the bottoms and marking the tops. And again, it's warning here, again, you've got risk of a bigger sell-off, which right now we're down 5.739% this week so far. You've got risk of a bigger drop, a larger corrective move to test the 100,000 area, or Bitcoin is topped and it's now going to usher in a bear market. I warned you about the topping signals. Now the herd, they never listened. The thing they listen to is the propaganda coming out of the Moon Boys. There was a boatload of people that used to be trading Bitcoin, used to be Bitcoin traders and investors, but they got wiped out the last time listening to the Moon Boys. That's why I'm presenting to you the bullish case and the bearish case, and I'm just warning you, Bitcoin is at risk of having completed the 4-year cycle. But the signal here is either warning we're going to get this bigger pullback, which we're getting now, or we're going to get it and go down and take out the 50-week moving average. This is the weekly chart right here.